The night bled silver across the kingdom of Erwin. Wolves howled from the mountain ridges, their cries echoing through the forest like broken prayers. Above them, the moon was not its usual soft pearl glow, it burned crimson, as if soaked in sorrow. Inside the marble halls of the Moonblood Palace, chaos reigned. "Find her," the queen cried, her voice trembling with fear and defiance. She clutched the swaddled infant in her arms, her last child, her legacy, the final heartbeat of a cursed bloodline. The baby whimpered, a tiny sound that seemed to pull the very light from the torches. The royal guards hesitated. They'd all heard the prophecy. When the blood moon rises, the last moonblood heir shall either save the wolves or doom them. The queen pressed her lips to her daughter's forehead. "You will not die tonight," she whispered, voice cracking. "The moon may curse us, but it will not have you." A shadow appeared in the doorway, an old seer draped in midnight robes, her eyes pale as frost. "My queen," she said softly, "the curse has been set. Her name must be hidden, her face forgotten, until her fated one finds her. Only the bond of true mates can break what the gods have bound." The queen's tears glimmered in the blood-red light. "Then let her be forgotten," she whispered. "Let her live among the nameless until destiny calls her home." The seer took the infant, wrapping her in rough linen. A strange mark shimmered faintly on the baby's neck, a crescent of silver, pulsing once before fading into skin. Thunder cracked, the castle trembled. The queen turned one last time toward her child. "Remember this, my little moon," she said through her tears. "Even if the world calls you nothing, the moon will always know your name." The seer vanished into the storm. Outside, the forest opened like a dark mouth, swallowing both woman and child. The cries of wolves grew louder, more desperate, as if the pack could sense the loss of something sacred. By dawn, the Moonblood Palace was silent. The queen's crown lay shattered upon the steps, and a single line of prophecy burned itself across the great hall wall. The lost heiress will rise when the Alpha King claims what was once forsaken. And somewhere in the ashes of a ruined kingdom, a baby's cry faded into the wind, marking the beginning of a story that would change the fate of wolves forever. Years passed. The world forgot the name Moonblood, as if the wind itself had conspired to erase it. Far from the ruins of Erwin, the royal citadel of the Alpha King rose tall and cold against the mountains. Its towers shimmered in morning frost. Its courtyards thrummed with the disciplined rhythm of pack life. Warriors trained, servants scurried. Nobles murmured behind jeweled goblets about power, lineage, and the coming blood moon. And somewhere beneath all that glittering cruelty, a girl knelt with a bucket of water and bleeding hands. Lyra scrubbed the marble floors until her palms stung raw. The scent of wolves, iron, smoke, dominant, pressed on her chest like a weight. She kept her head bowed, her long dark hair hiding her face, and when her reflection flickered in the clean marble, she flinched. Her eyes, even dulled by soot, they gleamed faintly silver. The mark she was born with, the one that could doom her if anyone noticed. "Lyra," the head maid's voice snapped like a whip. "You missed a spot again. Do you think dirt cleans itself? I'm sorry," she murmured, forcing humility into her voice. "I'll fix it." "You always say that." The older woman sneered and turned away. "Be grateful the Alpha hasn't seen you yet. He doesn't tolerate mistakes." Alpha, Lyra thought bitterly. "I've been scrubbing his floors for years, and he doesn't even know I exist." When the hall emptied, she sat back on her heels and stared out the tall windows. The mountains stretched endless and blue. Wolves ran along the ridges, their cries sharp and mournful. She could feel it, something restless under her skin, like a heartbeat that wasn't hers. It called to her when the moon rose high, whispered to her in dreams she never dared speak aloud. A wolf with golden eyes, a voice that murmured her name as if it had always known it, but she had no name worth knowing, not here, not as a servant. She dipped the rag back into the bucket and forced the thought away. Survival meant silence. It meant keeping her eyes low and her scent hidden beneath herbs and ash. Yet even as she worked, she couldn't ignore the shift in the air. The palace thrummed with rumor. The Alpha King was returning from war, victorious but wounded. His pack prepared for his arrival. The whole kingdom was holding its breath. and deep inside, Lyra's wolf stirred for the first time in years, lifting its head to the distant sound of drums. Something was coming. Something that would burn her carefully hidden world to ash. The nights had grown colder, and with them came the dreams. They began softly, silver light dripping through her thoughts, a wolf's silhouette standing at the edge of a dark forest. But each time it came closer, each time its golden eyes burned brighter, Lyra woke with her hand pressed over her heart, sweat damp on her brow. The whisper of the wolf still echoed in her mind, low and haunting. "Find me," she rubbed at her arms, the skin prickling with that strange pull again. The moon outside her window hung full and white, yet its glow seemed to hum with something alive, a vibration beneath her bones. In the servants' quarters, the others were still asleep, curled under thin blankets, but Lyra couldn't rest. The air carried the smell of rain and fur and something else, power, old and dangerous. She slipped quietly outside, her bare feet silent on the cold stone. The courtyard was empty except for the palace seer, the old woman everyone feared. She stood at the center of the garden, her head lifted toward the sky. "The moon speaks louder these nights," the seer murmured without turning. "Do you hear her too, child?" Lyra froze. I only came to fetch water." The old woman turned then, her eyes clouded with age but gleaming with a strange, knowing light. "You dream of wolves, don't you, of golden eyes under bloodlight?" Lyra's breath caught. "How do you, the moon remembers all her children?" the seer said softly, "and she weeps for those who hide from their own name." For a moment neither of them moved, the air itself seemed to listen. Then the old woman stepped closer, her gnarled hand brushing Lyra's cheek. "The Alpha returns soon. When he does, keep your heart guarded. The moon reclaims what she is owed." Lyra's voice shook. "I don't understand." "You will." The seer's lips curved into something like sorrow. "When he looks at you, you will remember everything you tried to forget." Before Lyra could ask more, a horn sounded in the distance deep, echoing through the valley. The Alpha King had crossed the border. The old seer smiled faintly, almost pitying. "It begins." Lyra stood frozen as the woman vanished into shadow, her words coiling through the night air like smoke. The wind shifted, and for the first time in her life, Lyra felt it clearly. A heartbeat that was not her own, pulsing in perfect rhythm with hers. Something ancient had awakened beneath the rising moon. The morning broke with the tremor of hooves and the low roar of drums. From every tower and terrace, the castle's banners unfurled black silk embroidered with a silver wolf's head, the mark of the Alpha King. Servants scurried like frightened mice, preparing for his return. The air itself seemed heavier, thick with power and rumor. Lyra kept her head down, polishing the entrance hall's columns until her arms ached. But even as she worked, her heart refused to settle. The horn from the night before still rang in her memory, and with it the seer's voice. "When he looks at you, you will remember everything you tried to forget." She tried to shake it off. The king had no reason to look at her. She was just another nameless servant. The gates thundered open. Wolves poured into the courtyard in formation, soldiers, hunters, and riders cloaked in furs and dust. Their mounts' hooves struck sparks on the stone, and at the center of them all rode a man who seemed carved from shadow and storm, Alpha Kale. Even before she saw his face, Lyra felt it, that pulse, that strange gravity that stole her breath. His aura spread like wildfire, rippling through every wolf within reach. The servants dropped their gazes instinctively. Some even trembled. He dismounted, moving with lethal grace. His eyes, a molten gold, scanned the courtyard, the gaze of a predator who saw everything, missed nothing. And when those eyes swept past her, Lyra felt her world stop. Just a glance, but it was enough. Her wolf stirred violently, pressing against her ribs, clawing to rise. She bit her lip until she tasted blood. No, not here, not now. Kale's stare lingered a heartbeat longer than it should have, then flicked away. His expression unreadable, but Lyra saw it. The faintest flicker of confusion, as if he'd caught a scent he couldn't place. The head beta approached him with a bow. "Welcome home, my king. The council awaits." Kale cut him off with a gesture. His voice was low, gravel, rough from battle. "There's a new scent in my halls." Lyra froze where she knelt. The beta blinked, "Assent, my king." Kale's golden eyes drifted once more toward her side of the hall, his nostrils flaring slightly, something, old, familiar. He turned away before anyone could see the flicker of unrest in his gaze. "Double the patrols, no one leaves the grounds tonight." As the soldiers obeyed, the hall erupted in movement again. Lyra exhaled slowly, her pulse racing. Her wolf's voice whispered in the back of her mind, trembling with recognition. "He's here." She pressed a hand to her chest, fighting to steady her breath. The air smelled of smoke and rain, and something deeper, the same wild scent from her dreams. And as the Alpha King disappeared up the grand staircase, she knew with a sinking certainty, whatever she had spent her life hiding from had finally found her. The castle was never silent anymore. Since the Alpha King's return, every corridor buzzed with restless energy. Servants moved faster, soldiers barked orders sharper, and the air carried an undercurrent of something volatile. Power and unease twined together like smoke and fire. For Lyra, it was worse than unease. It was chaos in her veins. She couldn't shake the moment in the hall. The way his golden eyes had caught hers, like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Every time she blinked, she saw it again, and every time her chest tightened with something between fear and yearning. She tried to bury herself in chores, polishing armor, folding linens, fetching wine, but the scent of him lingered everywhere, cedar and rain and the faintest trace of wolf musk that made her pulse stutter. By dusk, she found herself carrying a tray of scrolls toward the throne chamber. The heavy doors were ajar, the light within flickering from the fire pit. She hesitated at the threshold. Voices echoed, low, male, authoritative. "Your patrols report nothing," Kale's voice, deep and edged with command. "No intruders, my king," replied the beta, "only servants. Yet the scent remains." Kale murmured, "Something ancient, it stirs my wolf." Lyra's breath hitched. Her fingers tightened around the tray. She shouldn't be here. She knew it, but something, some magnetic pull, held her still. A scroll slipped from the stack, falling to the floor with a faint thud. Silence. The next second, the Alpha King's gaze was on her, sharp, piercing, unmistakable. Her throat went dry. The world seemed to narrow to just those eyes, liquid gold, alight with recognition and danger. "I forgive me, my king," she whispered, kneeling instantly. "I didn't mean to intrude." Kale said nothing for a long, taut moment. The firelight flickered across his face, catching on the faint scars along his jaw. He was watching her, not like a servant, but like something he couldn't comprehend. "What is your name?" His voice was softer now, though no less commanding. "Lyra," she whispered. "A servant, my lord." "Lyra," he repeated, testing it on his tongue as if it meant something more. His wolf stirred within him. He could feel the wild surge of recognition clawing up his spine. The scent, the pull, the ache, but that was impossible. He was the Alpha King. He didn't need a mate, and no servant could bear the scent of royalty he sensed on her. "Leave," he said finally, his voice rough. Now, she stood so quickly the tray rattled. "Yes, my king." As she backed away, her eyes flicked up, just once, and their gazes locked again. For a heartbeat, the air between them shimmered, charged with something ancient and faded. His breath caught, hers broke, then she was gone. Kale turned away from the door, fists clenched at his sides, his wolf snarling restlessly in his chest. That scent, that feeling, he knew it once before, in dreams under a blood-red moon. But how could that be? The lost moonblood air had vanished generations ago. The castle shimmered with gold and shadow that night. It was the feast of submission, the annual night when the packs bowed before their Alpha King and renewed their loyalty with blood and wine. Nobles in velvet cloaks filled the grand hall, laughter echoing beneath chandeliers strung with silver vines, and among them, unnoticed and unseen, Lyra poured the wine. Her hands trembled as she moved between tables, silver goblets clinking, scents of roasted venison and burning cedar filling the air. The mask she wore, plain linen, servant's humility, hid the truth beating in her chest. Every time she passed the throne, her pulse betrayed her. Every time the Alpha King's eyes swept the room, she felt their gravity tug her soul. Kale sat tall and unyielding, crown glinting in the firelight. Yet behind his stoic calm, his wolf was restless, that scent again, sweet, ancient, the scent that had haunted his dreams. He should have been listening to his advisors argue over borders and alliances. Instead, his eyes followed the slender servant moving with quiet grace through the chaos. Lyra, when her gaze flicked up, just for a heartbeat, the noise of the hall seemed to fade. It was only the two of them, staring across a sea of people who didn't notice the storm building between their fates. Then the horn sounded, a herald stepped forward. The Alpha King will now accept the pack's tribute. One by one, the lords and ladies rose, kneeling before Kale's throne. They offered jewels, blades, and oaths. And then the blood chalice was brought forth. Kale's fingers wrapped around it, but the liquid inside swirled unnaturally, dark and thick. His instincts howled. Something was wrong. Without thinking, Lyra stepped forward. "My king," she blurted, voice too loud, too desperate. "Don't." Every head in the hall turned. Silence. Kale's eyes snapped to her, shock flickering beneath his control. The beta growled. "A servant dares interrupt the blood rite." Lyra froze, heart hammering. She couldn't tell them what she felt. The pulse of dark magic rising from that chalice, the way her bloodline reacted to it. The same bloodline she wasn't supposed to have. Kale rose slowly. The hall seemed to hold its breath. "Step forward," he commanded. Her legs moved before her mind could stop them. She knelt at the foot of the dais, trembling, head bowed. Kale's voice was low, dangerous. "You would risk death to stop me drinking from this. She swallowed. "It's cursed, my king. I can feel it." A ripple of whispers spread through the hall. The Alpha's expression didn't change, but his wolf snarled inside him. How could she sense that only a wolf of royal blood could detect blood curses? "Take her away," the beta ordered. Kale hesitated, then quietly said, "No, she stays." The tension in his voice made even the guards pause. He turned to the hall. "This feast is over." The command rolled through the air like thunder. And as the crowd dispersed in confusion, Kale's gaze met Lyra's once more, this time not with suspicion, but something far more dangerous, recognition. The corridors were silent after the feast, save for the echo of armored boots and the faint, trembling rhythm of Lyra's breath. Two guards flanked her as they led her into the Alpha King's private chamber, an honor no servant should ever earn. The great doors closed behind them with a sound like thunder. Kale stood by the window, moonlight washing over his bare forearms and the shadowed planes of his face. His crown was gone, but the weight of command still clung to him. When the guards stepped back, he spoke without turning. "Leave us." "My king," one protested, now. They obeyed, retreating quickly. The room fell into heavy silence. Lyra stood frozen near the doorway, her heart racing so fast she thought he might hear it. Kale turned at last, his eyes, golden, sharp, searching, trapped her in place. "You knew the chalice was cursed," he said softly. "How I didn't, don't lie to me." His voice deepened, threaded with his wolf's growl. "You sensed it before I touched it. No servant could do that." She flinched under his stare. "I only felt something wrong in the air." Felt. He took a step closer. That's what a seer might say, or someone with ancient blood. Her hands clenched in her skirt. "I swear, my king, Kale," he interrupted quietly. "You'll call me Kale." The sound of his name on her lips would haunt him later, he knew. He wasn't sure why he wanted to hear it now. Why her voice, soft and unsure, had rooted so deep beneath his skin. She hesitated. Kale. Something in the air shifted, the faint scent of her, the same one that had haunted him for days, grew stronger, wrapping around him like heat and memory. He took another step, and another, until the distance between them was nothing but breath and heartbeat. "You're hiding something," he murmured, "and my wolf. He doesn't know whether to destroy you or protect you." Her pulse jumped. Maybe he doesn't have to choose. For a second the world stilled. Then Kale's hand lifted, fingers brushing a strand of hair from her face. Electricity sparked where his skin met hers. Real, sharp, undeniable. His wolf surged forward, howling mine in the back of his mind. Lyra gasped softly, stepping back as though burned. "You shouldn't." "I know," he said hoarsely, "but I can't seem to stop." The moonlight between them pulsed, the mark of fate shimmering faintly across her wrist. Hidden, but starting to awaken, Cale's gaze dropped to it, eyes narrowing. For a fleeting instant, he saw the faint silver pattern glow before she snatched her hand away. What was that? Nothing. He didn't press further, but his wolf was already snarling the truth he didn't want to believe. That mark, that light, that scent, there was only one bloodline in all the kingdoms that carried it. The Moonblood line, the one that vanished, and she was standing right in front of him. Lyra couldn't sleep that night. The wind howled across the castle towers, rattling shutters like the ghosts of the Moonblood past, ghosts that whispered her name. She sat by the dying fire in the servants' quarters, rubbing her wrist until the faint silver glow faded from sight. The mark still throbbed beneath her skin, as if remembering Cale's touch. She told herself it was only the moonlight playing tricks, that he couldn't have truly seen it, but deep down she knew the truth. Alpha Cale wasn't a man easily deceived. When dawn came, she slipped into the northern wing, where the oldest corridors lay forgotten by most. The scent of dust and candle wax filled the air. Behind a torn tapestry of the first kings, she'd once glimpsed a door, one that servants whispered about but never entered. Today she did. The hinges creaked softly as she stepped into a hidden gallery lined with portraits, royal wolves with eyes like flame and crowns of silver, and there, in the largest frame of all, was a woman with the same moonlit gaze and soft hair that Lyra saw in the mirror every morning. Her mother, her breath hitched, so the legends were true. The Moonblood line hadn't perished completely. It had survived, hidden, trembling, disguised as a servant. The whisper of footsteps echoed behind her. Lyra, she spun around. Cale stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable, his golden eyes molten and knowing. I should have known you'd come here, he said. This hall. It was sealed when the old dynasty fell. No servant should even know it exists. I got lost, she said quickly, though her voice betrayed her. Don't lie to me again. His tone was quiet, but sharp as a blade. He stepped closer, eyes flicking from her wrist to the portrait behind her. You look like her. Who? The lost princess. His voice broke slightly, as if saying it cost him something. The one my ancestors swore to protect. The one my father said the moon took as punishment. She swallowed hard. That's just a story. He stopped before her, inches away. Then why does your scent call to me like the moon calls the tide? Lyra froze. The air between them shimmered with tension and something else, something ancient, primal. Cale lifted his hand slowly, brushing his fingers against her wrist. The mark flared again, bright silver, pulsing like a heartbeat. Her breath caught. His gaze locked on hers. You're not just a servant. I never wanted you to find out, she whispered. If the council knows, they'll kill me. Cale's wolf snarled deep in his chest, the sound low and dangerous. Let them try. She shook her head, panic rising. You don't understand. There's a curse. If my bloodline is revealed before the full moon's blessing, death will follow, for both of us. For a moment, silence stretched between them, sharp as glass. Then Cale's jaw hardened. Then we'll break it, he said, together. But the moon outside flickered red for an instant, as if warning them that fate never breaks without a price. The council chamber was heavy with incense and tension. Golden banners fluttered above the gathered nobles, their whispers slicing through the air like knives. At the head of the long table sat Calalfa King, ruler of all northern pacts, his expression unreadable, his golden eyes dimmed by sleeplessness. Lyra stood at his side, head bowed, the symbol of her servitude stark against the shimmering marble floor. She hadn't wanted to come, but when Cale had ordered it, stay by my side today, no matter what happens, she hadn't dared disobey. Now she wished she had, because every gaze in that chamber was daggers aimed straight at her heart. Your Majesty, a noble began, his voice oily with false reverence. It's unusual for a servant to stand in a royal council. The pack might question your judgment. Cale's jaw tensed. My judgment needs no defense. Still, another murmured, this girl, she reeks of something, unnatural, perhaps a witch. The word struck the air like lightning. Murmurs spread. Lyra's hands trembled at her sides. Witch, the word that once burned her kind alive. Cale's gaze snapped toward the speaker. Careful, Lord Varen. You forget to whom you speak." "I forget nothing," Varen replied, his tone turning cold. "We all saw what happened at the feast, the cursed chalice, how she knew before anyone else. That's not human instinct. She's not human." Someone whispered. Lyra flinched, that whisper carried, rippling across the room until silence thickened like storm clouds. Cale rose slowly from his seat, his dominance flooding the air, the scent of his power silencing every breath. "Enough," he said. "You will not question my decisions." But before he could continue, Varen smirked. "Then perhaps you'll explain why your servant bears the mark of the moonblood." The chamber froze. Lyra's head snapped up too fast, too revealing. A hush fell. Cale's voice was low, lethal. "What did you say?" Varen pointed to her wrist, where the faint silver glow had begun to shimmer beneath her skin, called by her fear. "There, that mark. I've seen it in the archives, the cursed bloodline of the Moon Queen." "Lies," Lyra said, though her voice shook. "Show them," Varen demanded. Cale turned to her slowly. "Lyra, don't," she whispered, but the room was already thrumming with power. The mark flared on its own, defying her, gleaming silver like spilled moonlight across her skin. Gasps echoed through the chamber. "She's one of them," someone shouted. "The lost heir. She deceived us," Cale's wolf growled, the sound shaking the walls. Silence, but the nobles were already backing away, fear and superstition clouding their eyes. Lyra stepped forward, trembling. "You think you know what I am," her voice cracked, but her power didn't. The ground beneath her feet trembled, thin cracks splintering through the marble. "You don't know half of it." Cale's gaze locked on her, fierce, conflicted, alive. Every instinct told him to protect her. Every law said he must condemn her. And Lyra, breathing hard, silver light bleeding from her skin, realized that hiding was no longer an option. "I am not your servant," she said, voice low but steady. "I am what your bloodline swore to serve." The marble split with a final thunderous crack, and the mark of the Moon Queen burned bright for all to see. The castle burned with whispers. By sundown, the entire court knew the servant girl was no servant at all. She was Moonblood, the lost heir, the cursed one, and the Alpha King had been protecting her. Lyra sat locked in the lower dungeons, the scent of cold stone and iron choking her senses. Chains bit into her wrists, not because they could hold her power, but because she allowed them to. If she unleashed herself now, the curse would awaken in full. The cell door creaked open. Cale entered shadowed and silent, his golden eyes storm. Dark, for a heartbeat neither spoke. "You shouldn't have come," she said softly. He ignored that. "They're calling for your execution." She smiled bitterly. "So soon, Varen rallied the elders. They say your presence defies the laws of the Pax, that your curse will bring ruin." Maybe they're right. He slammed his hand against the bars, the sound echoing like thunder. "Don't say that." Her gaze rose soft but tired. "You can't protect me from this, Cale. You're their king, not their god. I'm your mate," he said before he could stop himself. Silence. The words hung between them, heavy, electric. She stared at him, eyes wide, lips parting as if to protest. But no sound came out. The mark on her wrist pulsed, responding to his claim, but then her expression hardened. "You shouldn't say things you can't undo." "It's the truth," he said quietly. "My wolf knows it. I've felt it since the first moment I saw you, and I don't care what they call you. You're mine." Her heart twisted painfully. "If you mark me, the curse will spread. You'll die before the next moonrise. Then let it." Her breath caught. "Cale, I will not stand by while they tear you apart," he said, voice trembling with fury. "I'll face the entire council if I must, but I won't let them take you." Lyra rose slowly, stepping to the edge of the cell. The bars between them felt like the last barrier holding fate in place. "If you defy them, they'll destroy you too." He met her gaze, unflinching. "Then we burn together." She reached through the bars, her fingertips brushing his. The touch sent fire through them both, but before the moment could deepen, the dungeon door burst open. Guards flooded in. Varen stood among them, his eyes gleaming with triumph. "Your Majesty," he said mockingly, "you should not be seen consorting with a traitor." Cale stepped forward, growling low in his throat. "Careful, Varen." But Varen only smiled. "The council has voted. The girl dies at dawn, by royal decree." Lyra's breath faltered. Kale turned on him, fury like wildfire. "You dare, it's done," Varen interrupted coldly. "Even you cannot overrule the Blood Moon's law." The torches flickered as if recoiling from the tension. Kale's claws half bared, his wolf fought to rise. Lyra's voice, soft and shaking, broke the silence. "Kale, don't fight them, please." He looked at her as if she'd just stabbed him. "You're asking me to let you die." Tears gathered in her eyes. "I'm asking you to live." The guards seized her. Chains rattled as they dragged her away, her silver eyes glinting like shattered starlight. Kale stood frozen, the echo of her scent already fading down the corridor. And as the blood moon rose above the castle towers, the Alpha King made his choice. If they would kill his mate, then the laws of wolves would burn. The forest swallowed her whole. Lyra ran through the twisted trees, the sound of guards shouting behind her echoing like distant thunder. Moonlight broke through the canopy, painting silver streaks across her hair and the dark forest floor. Every branch threatened to snag her skirts. Every shadow seemed to whisper her name. The curse inside her stirred, a faint pulse under her skin, warning her that the bloodline's power was waking. Her silver, marked wrist throbbed, and she could feel her wolf stirring, restless and hungry. "Kale," she whispered under her breath, a tremor of longing and fear. Why isn't he here? But she knew. If he joined her openly, the council would see. The entire pack would hunt both of them. She had to survive until the Alpha could act in secret. The guards' shouts grew louder. She leapt over a fallen log, her breath ragged, heart hammering like a drum. Every step carried the weight of her destiny, and she could feel the moons pull stronger with each stride. Then a shadow detached itself from the trees. Kale. He moved like smoke, silent, powerful. Golden eyes locked on hers. "Lyra," he murmured, "you shouldn't be alone out here." "I can't stay," she said quickly, brushing past him. He caught her wrist in a grip that was firm, protective, undeniable. His wolf howled in her mind, desperate, feral. "Then run with me." In an instant she felt the surge. His scent enveloped her, deep and primal, calling to her wolf. For a heartbeat, the forest fell away. It was only the two of them, running together through moonlit shadows, the sound of their footfalls a rhythm no one else could hear. The first guards appeared at the clearing's edge, torches flaring. Kale shifted mid, stride massive and golden, wolf and man entwined in perfect sync. Lyra stumbled, nearly thrown off, but he caught her with one arm, his strength grounding her as they disappeared into the dense underbrush. Branches whipped against their faces, roots threatened their footing, but nothing could slow them. Kale's presence was a shield, his aura flaring, a wall no ordinary mortal could breach. Somewhere deeper in the forest, the blood moon hung high, crimson and oppressive. It pulsed against her skin, against the mark on her wrist, and she felt the full weight of her power awakening. Kale glanced at her mid. Run, eyes burning, the curse. He murmured, "It's starting. You must stay close, trust me." "I'm scared," she admitted, breath ragged. "So am I," he said, his wolf growling low, "but fear isn't going to save you, I am." Behind them, the shouts of the council and the clamor of pursuit faded slightly, swallowed by the forest, but not gone. Every step carried them closer to fate, closer to the altar where destiny waited. And as the first drops of blood moon rain fell, Lyra realized the truth. She couldn't outrun her past. She couldn't hide from her power. But with Kale at her side, she might just survive it. The clearing was silent, bathed in the blood, red glow of the moon. Lyra knelt at the ancient altar, roots twisted like veins around stone that had witnessed centuries of magic and bloodlines. Her silver, marked wrist pulsed, every beat of her heart echoing the curse that had been chasing her whole life. Kale emerged from the shadows, massive, golden eyes blazing, wolf and man perfectly balanced. He moved to her side without hesitation, and for a fleeting moment, nothing existed except the two of them and the pulse of destiny beneath their feet. "They've come for you," he murmured. His voice was low, a growl that trembled with both rage and tenderness. "But it doesn't matter, not tonight." Lyra's eyes filled with fear. "Kale, you will live," he interrupted, brushing hair from her face. "By the moon and by the pack, I claim you." The air shimmered around them. His wolf surged forward, instinct and power blending with his human form. The silver mark on Lyra's wrist flared bright, responding to him, drawing the curse into the circle of their bond. Kale's hands found her shoulders, steadying her trembling form. I mark you as mine. No counsel, no law, no curse can touch you. The forest trembled with the sound of wolves howling in the distance, their cries rising to the sky as if the earth itself acknowledged the fated claim. Lyra gasped as his hands brushed her skin, heat and light flooding through her veins. Pain and power mingled in an impossible harmony, the curse bending, breaking, dissolving beneath the force of the bond he had declared. Her wolf stirred, calling his wolf, and they howled together in one long, unbroken sound that shook the very trees. The power of Moonblood, long hidden, surged free at last. Kale leaned close, lips brushing her ear. You are mine, my queen, my mate. Nothing will take you from me. Tears spilled down her cheeks, but they were not of fear. They were of relief, of triumph, of a love that had burned unseen for too long. I'm yours, she whispered. The first drops of rain fell, but it did not dampen the moment. Instead, the droplets glimmered like silver, casting the clearing in an ethereal glow. Lyra rose to her feet, trembling but unafraid, feeling the full weight and wonder of her power, her lineage, and her destiny. Behind them, the sound of the pursuing council faded into nothingness. The blood moon's light pulsed once, brighter than before, then softened into gentle silver. The curse was gone, the bond was sealed. Kale lifted her hand, pressing his forehead to hers. We begin anew together. No more hiding, no more fear. Lyra's lips curved into a smile she had never allowed herself before. Together, she echoed, and in that forest under the moon's witness, the Alpha King claimed his queen, and the lost Moonblood heir finally stood in her power, whole, unbroken, and unstoppable. Weeks had passed since the blood moon had marked the night of their union. The castle, once tense and shadowed by fear, now thrummed with life and quiet reverence. Servants whispered in awe instead of suspicion, and the nobles had learned, some grudgingly, that the Moonblood Queen was not a threat but a force to be reckoned with. Lyra walked through the royal gardens, sunlight glinting off her silver, marked wrist. The wind carried the scent of pine and rain, the same wild essence she had smelled the first night she had fled the castle. Only now it felt like home. Kale appeared at her side without a sound, golden eyes warm, wolf at rest beneath the surface. He slipped an arm around her waist, pulling her close. You look radiant, he murmured. His voice held the weight of battles fought and love finally claimed. I'm free, Lyra whispered, resting her head against his chest. Free to be who I am, no more hiding. Kale's lips brushed the top of her hair. No more hiding and no more running. They walked through the gardens hand in hand, silent but content. The palace was no longer a cage, but a kingdom where her power and voice mattered. Later in the throne room, Kale took his seat at the dais and Lyra joined him, stepping forward not as a servant, not as a shadow, but as the queen. Her silver, marked hands rested on the armrest, the glow faint but constant, a symbol of the line she carried, the legacy she had reclaimed. The council bowed as she passed, the tension of fear replaced by respect, awe, and cautious hope. Lyra's gaze swept the room, and for the first time she saw the full weight of her authority, and she felt ready to bear it. When night fell, the new moon rose, soft and pale, silver light spilling across the kingdom. Lyra stepped onto the balcony, wind lifting her hair, and whispered to the stars above, I was never a servant. I was just waiting to be seen. Kale joined her, silent, steady, strong. His hand found hers, and she felt the same pull she had felt the night their fates first intertwined, a bond unbroken by fear, betrayal, or curse. Together, he said, echoing the vow they had spoken in the forest. Together, she agreed, leaning against him, the cool night wind brushing her face. For the first time in her life, Lyra did not hide. She did not fear. She was Moonblood. She was queen. She was loved by the Alpha who had claimed her, not as a servant, not as a shadow, but as the woman she had always been destined to become. And under the watchful gaze of the stars and the soft glow of the moon, the queen beneath the moon smiled, her heart finally at peace. The kingdom was whole again, their love unstoppable and destiny fulfilled.